Good early afternoon. We are live. Happy New Year. What is today? Today's the 6th? Today's the 6th. And it's a Tuesday. I got that right. How you doing, Ruth from Southwest Virginia? Oh, man, we have a good show today. It's college football. I see a Minnesota Golden Gopher sitting out there, right? I can't tell who else is there just because you guys are not wearing hats or anything, but I think I'm seeing probably a lot of Michigan fans and Wisconsin fans. There's the Minnesota Golden Gopher. Any Indiana fans? You're already a Minnesota fan. You can't be an Indiana fan. Indiana destroyed us. So you can't. Martin Simmons. Hey to Gomer. Milton, Florida. Oh. Martin says, I ordered the noticer for my bride's birthday. Now, Martin, you got to understand the workings of a teleprompter and the workings of punctuation. Because you said, I got a noticer. What did you say? I ordered the noticer for my bride's, and it doesn't have an apostrophe, for my bride's birthday. And Matt, when you rolled it up, it said, I ordered the noticer for my bride's then birthday. Oh, okay. All right. Shanda Danner, how you doing? Beautiful day there. It's a pretty day here, too. Cheryl Robe from Oxford, Pennsylvania. You know, Oxford, Pennsylvania makes me think of Oxford, Mississippi. Ole Miss still in the place. Why are you shaking your head? You don't think they got a chance, or you're still mad at Lane Kiffin? Well, Lane Kiffin has already left. LSU. He just showed up in Caracas last night wearing one of these things, and he's left LSU to be the new commander of Venezuela. So I think he feels like he has a better chance of winning the national championship there. Dave Huco, Happy New Year. And you said, by the way, you're going to come to Minnesota with the Gaithers? I guess not. I didn't know that the Gaithers are going to Minnesota. But I want to find out where, because if they're going to be near Dan Stone, I need to tell Dan about it. Tim Hoving, Happy New Year. Go Ducks. There's an Oregon guy. You know, everybody's thinking about this now. Charlie Marlowe, you guys in the Pentagon are watching. You know, I like to imagine that as a big office with several hundred Pentagon people, even though it's probably a smaller office with 5 or 6 of you. But just knowing that we had the Pentagon watching. But this is all you guys have to do? I just happen to think, the Pentagon is watching this? Come on, you guys need to get busy. I'm glad you're here. Serena Stoll Garner from Thornburg, Arkansas. Anybody here from Arkansas? No. You know, Arkansas was where the toothbrush was invented. If it had been invented anywhere else, it would have been called the teeth brush. That's pretty funny to me. Okay, now let's get to it. All right, I've got something really on my mind here today. It's not going to be a long show. We're just gonna let me gripe a little bit. Okay. You know, before we talk about any serious stuff like leadership or performance or results, I need to get the teleprompter working before we talk about anything. What? There it is. There it isn't. I wrote down some notes, so I would stay semi on track, which I don't usually. So anyway, what was I saying before we talk about results? I want to talk about human behavior. I'm probably exhibiting some odd human behavior right now, but it's funny to me that people like to believe that we are rational. But college football has spent approximately 150 years proving that completely wrong, because we're not rational. I mean, take a rivalry week, for example. Alabama-Auburn here. This is one time a year when otherwise decent adults scream insults at people they went to high school with while wearing face paint. If you're in Minnesota, you're doing it in 40 below weather. If you're at Mississippi State, you're holding a cowbell. And nobody asks, why. They just nod and act like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, right? I mean, you pass people here in a resort town in Orange Beach, Alabama, on a Saturday in the fall. You can go in Publix and just see like 20 different teams represented. And people are walking through Publix, like insulting strangers and laughing about it. So it's crazy. College football rivalries have trophies that look like they were invented because of a dare or something, or because of a joke. There's a 6-foot axe that Wisconsin plays for, right? We have a bronze turtle. That's Maryland and Rutgers. We have a bell that's been stolen, hidden, guarded, and treated like national security. At one point, the rivalry trophy was literally a keg of beer, not symbolic, functional. Okay. And somewhere along the line, everybody involved with Minnesota and Michigan agreed this was a solid plan, and they moved on. Did you know that Minnesota and Michigan play for a keg of beer? Obviously not that big a rivalry, is it? But Minnesota loses every year, don't y'all? I think y'all do. But, you got a Spartan fighting a golden gopher. It doesn't matter what color the gopher is. It's still a gopher. Yeah. Okay. But here's the best part. Rivalry week, it overrides logic. Okay, because people refuse to schedule their weddings on that week. Families will sit on the opposite side of living rooms. Entire states will go quiet or loud, depending on a scoreboard. Nobody gets paid extra. Nobody gets promoted. And yet the effort, the emotion, the preparation is just off the charts. And why, you would ask, was because culture beats incentives. Every time. When people believe that something matters, when they believe something matters, it's like they behave differently without being asked. And this is why rivalries matter, and it's why culture matters. If you want incredible results, you don't start with talent. You start with belief, identity, and shared standards. Because if a bronze turtle can inspire decades of passion, loyalty, and a rational commitment, imagine what the right culture could do inside your office or inside your church or your organization. Now, here is the point I really wanted to get to today. Why? You hear me talking about culture a lot. And I have a company called Creating Measurable Results that works with companies where we coach the entire company. We from the C-suite, from the CEO to the guy mowing the grass. And we coach them on the same curriculum for 3 years. And it's a culture thing. So why focus so much on culture? Okay, in college football vernacular, have you ever wondered how Appalachian State managed to beat Michigan? I mean, how is Appalachian State able to go into the big house and beat Michigan at home? Or how can Georgia State go into Neyland Stadium and beat Tennessee? Georgia State, not Georgia, not Georgia Tech, not Georgia Southern, Georgia State. How can Georgia State go into Neyland Stadium and beat Tennessee in front of 109,000 Tennessee fans? How does Boise State ever in a million years beat Oklahoma? Well, they did. You know, then you consider this year's Rose Bowl game. All right, it was less than a week ago. The game, and by the way, I just got to say, before I get started on this, where is SB? She must be back hovering in her office, because I told her I was going to do a takedown of Alabama today, and she's a season ticket holder, and she didn't like it. She didn't like it. But I'm just telling the truth. And, you know, the truth hurts sometimes. But if you look at the Rose Bowl game, the game made no sense on paper. On paper, Alabama should have destroyed Indiana. But I guess that's why they don't play them on paper. You know, because on the field, Indiana Hoosiers defeated the Crimson Tide 38-3, despite this staggering imbalance in raw talent. Now get this. You know how they recruit, and it's like 3-star players, 4-star players, 5-star players. Indiana, going into the Rose Bowl, dressed 8 players on their whole team who were rated as 4- or 5-star recruits. 8 of them. Alabama trotted out 57. 57 4- and 5-star players. If recruiting rankings decided the outcomes, the result would have been inevitable. Think about this. The top 5 college football teams in recruiting last year were, in order, USC, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas. 2 of those teams, USC and Texas, didn't even make the playoffs. And the other 3, Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia, have already been eliminated. On the other hand, Indiana's recruiting rank last year was number 46 in the nation, while Alabama ranked number 2. And the year before that, Indiana ranked number 65, while Alabama's recruiting class was ranked number 1. Now, that alone should tell us something that's uncomfortable, but it's absolutely essential for people who are growing teams for the field or for the office or for an organization or a church. And this is the uncomfortable but absolutely essential truth. Talent accumulation does not equal performance. Culture determines whether talent multiplies or cancels itself out. Indiana did not win because they were faster. They weren't. They didn't win because they were bigger. Alabama's offensive line outweighed Indiana's defensive line by 40 pounds a man. And they weren't more gifted individually. 8 4- and 5-star players versus 57. Indiana won because their culture demanded alignment. Every player understood his role, trusted the system, and executed with discipline. Effort was not situational for Indiana. It was expected. Communication wasn't optional. It was habitual. It had been built into their process. Accountability did not wait for mistakes. It was baked into the preparation. When adversity shows up, and it always does on a big stage, Indiana responded as a unit, as a team, not as a collection of resumes. They didn't really care that they had, they weren't counting how many 4- and 5-star players they had. They were counting on their team. Alabama, by contrast, they looked like a roster that was rich in potential, but broken in communication and execution. Talent without cohesion creates hesitation, because hesitation gets exposed. It'll get you exposed. Coaching, not training, but coaching determines a culture. And this explains why the Alabama program has fallen off the cliff the past 2 years with the departure of Nick Saban. Nick was a coach. He was not a trainer. He was a coach. He understood the talent was there and that the players had been trained all their lives. He knew he had to coach them into proper team culture, but they had already been trained. It's a big mistake. I see people, that are supervising employees in companies. It's a big mistake people make all the time. They look at their people and they think, well, we need to bring in some sales training. Well, we need to bring in this training. We need to bring in this training. Look, let me ask you this. Do they know what to do? Yeah. Do they know how to do it? Yeah. So why aren't they doing it? Right? I mean, what are we going to do? Bring somebody in to train them more on what to do when they already know what to do? We're going to bring somebody in to train them on how to do it when they already know how to do it? How to do it more? I don't know. I don't know. But they don't need training. They need coaching. Most industries, including college football, watch their competition to determine how they're doing. They're always looking over here. Even the people in first and second place, they're looking over here to determine how they're doing. Is the economy good? Profits up? Yeah, us too. So let's just keep doing what we're doing. Is the economy tanking? Profits down? Yeah, us too. So let's be careful and we'll keep doing what we're doing. Culture is not advantageous if everybody's culture is equal. But culture is how you win big. Culture eats strategy for lunch. Nick Saban won 7 national championships. Was Nick Saban executing a conscious departure from his own industry? I mean, you understand, right? He's won more national championships than all the active coaches in college football today combined. Combined. There's no active coaches that add up to 7. So was he coaching differently? Was he explaining something different to his players and coaches? Curt Cignetti, who is the head coach at Indiana, answered that question with a yes. Was Saban doing something different? Well, just last week, Curt Cignetti, the head coach of Indiana, he said, I felt after a single season with Coach Saban, I had learned more about how to run a program than I did the previous 27 years as an assistant coach in other programs. So I guess Saban's doing something different. And there must be something to the fact that he was doing something different, because the head coaches of all 4 remaining teams in the playoffs coached as assistants under Saban. And Saban was a culture hound. He would recruit the best players he could, but then it was culture. It's a critical lesson for any organization that's chasing extraordinary results. Culture is the force that converts ability into outcomes. You can recruit the best people, fund the best tools, you can stack credentials as high as you like, but without a culture that reinforces standards, belief, communication, and shared responsibility, the gap between what could happen and what does happen grows wider every day. Indiana didn't just beat Alabama on the scoreboard. They demonstrated that when culture is strong, it levels every advantage talent claims to have. And when the culture is weak, even overwhelming talent becomes irrelevant. And the culture is weak at Alabama. And so their overwhelming talent has become irrelevant. So here's to close. 2 things to remember in your coaching journey. Number 1, outcomes can be a distraction. You know how everybody says focus on the outcome? Outcomes can be a distraction. Focus instead on the process of what you have to do to obtain the outcome. Nick Saban said that. And number 2, nothing ruins a great employee like tolerating a bad one. I mean, put people in a cultural position of having to be around somebody who doesn't get it. It just brings everybody down. It brings every action, every piece of performance, every piece of production. It just brings it down. Nothing is worse for a great employee than having to tolerate a bad one. You can't do epic things with subpar people. And no, I didn't say subpar talent. I said subpar people. You know, this has to do with character and attention and attitude. Subpar people. Because if you are running a company or an organization or you're president of a club, consider yourself to be running an NFL team. Because even if you won the Super Bowl last year, you still need to upgrade your team with better people. Every year, Super Bowl winner does not stand pat. And so, you know, I had a CEO I was talking to one time. I was talking to him about how how I hear you, David Land. I hear you, and I'm headed there tomorrow. So, I don't want to say the name of the company, but I hear you. I was talking to a CEO who said that, and I was talking to him about how creating measurable results works to retain talent. You know, that when you build a culture, a huge culture, then people want to stay, and so you're not losing money with turnover. I talked with one a healthcare. Now, granted, these people have 119,000 employees. They're not a client, but I talked to them, and do you know how much money turnover costs them every year to retrain and on? $48 million a year they're losing in turnover. And so I was talking to the CEO about how culture takes care of that. And he actually said to me, he said, that sounds awesome for 85 to 90% of my people. He said, but I got to tell you, I'm fine with losing 10 or 15% every year of my people. I said, really? He said, yeah, because I got to put in better people. And he said, if you can't keep up, or if you're not going to buy into the process, go work somewhere else. He said, he said, if you look at 1,000 people, then if you have 1,000 employees, the 100 on the bottom, you can hire better people that will get it more than they have. And, you know, I can't say that I necessarily disagree. It's kind of a, you know, it makes you feel like, oh, those poor people. But, hey, culture is a choice. Culture is a choice. Whether to get with the team. I mean, you know what Malachi Moore did last year? You know, and Malachi Moore, I mean, here with Nick at Alabama, I remember having a conversation with Nick about on and off the field, because these officials, they're watching these guys. I mean, they're listening to sports radio, they're watching TV, and they find out about these guys all year long. And, you know, they know if somebody's arrested or somebody broke curfew or somebody gets in trouble for this or that. And they know the teams that aren't getting in trouble. They know the teams that say yes, sir, to them out on the field, the teams that hand them the ball when they score a first down. And they're also familiar with the teams that just will throw the ball on the ground and make them go get it, or, you know, celebrate a first down. And so these guys are human. And if you're in a position like a football official where you can call holding on any play you want to call it on, I mean, who's to say somebody in there was holding or not? When you're in a position where you can call interference on any play you want to call it on, who are you going to call it on? People, who are you more likely to call it on? People you like and respect, or people that you just kind of don't like? I mean, you know, nobody's saying these people are doing it on purpose, but hey, don't you treat people that you like better than you treat people you don't like? And so, you know, Malachi Moore, last year in the Vanderbilt game, when Alabama was getting beat and the official put the ball down, the teams are lining up, he ran up, kicked the ball. I mean, Alabama fans remember this. Ran up, kicked the ball. And then the coach tried to get him off the field, and he refused to come off the field. And then he took his mouthpiece and threw it across. This is all on national television. And trust me, they would have had to hold Nick Saban back from going on the field and grabbing him by the face mask and hauling him to the locker room. But he would have definitely not played another down for Alabama. I saw a blue chip 5-star wide receiver in a Penn State game several years ago, Alabama and Penn State, and this I can't remember if it's a freshman or a sophomore, but he took a swing pass and ran untouched all the way to the end zone, 50 or 60 yards, and flipped into the end zone, did a forward flip into the end zone. He never played another down for Alabama. I've seen players under Nick that did something like this. That got them on the bench. They're on the bench. You know, Nick's first head coaching job, his very first head coaching job, before the season ever started, it was like about 2 weeks before the season started, and he was convinced that they were not tough enough. And so he started them running stadium steps. And as they're running stadium steps, one of the players said, "This is bullcrap." And Nick stopped it, and he said, "You go to the locker room, pack up your stuff, get your nameplate off your locker if you want a souvenir, but you're off the team. You're not coming back." That was the starting quarterback 2 weeks before the season. But when you impose a culture and you explain why, see, he wasn't just telling them, you don't do this. We're not taking over that. He didn't just explain, you don't flip in the end zone. You don't celebrate when you score first. He didn't do any of that. He explained why. He said, we're being judged by people that are in their mid-50s. They're overwhelmingly white collar. They're overwhelmingly white, for that matter. They have teenagers still at home. They're overwhelmingly married. And whether this is right or wrong, whether celebrating is right or wrong, they don't like it. They think it's disrespectful. I think it's disrespectful. And if you want to work as a team here, if you want to be a part of the team, if you want to win a national championship, then we're going to do the things the team decides to do, and we're not going to do the things the team decides not to do. And we are not going to disrespect the people who are judging us every second that we are on a stage. He said, we're just not going to do it. He said, I'm not going to have that. And so he said, you understand this? Do you understand why? You understand why? You understand why? And so everybody did. And for years, I mean, there was no monkey business. Okay. And then Then we get a new coach, and Malachi Moore does that in the Vanderbilt game. And you know what happens to him? You know how he was punished? Nothing happened to him. He wasn't punished. The coach went on television at the press conference, and I'm assuming, you know, it was right after the game. I'm assuming it's before he even had a conversation with Malachi Moore. But he said Malachi is a great player, and he made a mistake, and he won't do this again. First of all, yeah, he's a great player. Second of all, the jury's out whether he's going to do it again or not. I mean, I'm thinking the jury's out on whether he's going to do it again or not. He did it this time and nothing happened. He talked back to his mama and he didn't get spanked. And the third point I'll make is Malachi Moore did not make a mistake. That was not a mistake. He knew better. He made a choice. When you make a mistake, you know, we as human beings, we tend to give a lot of grace for mistakes. A mistake is when you went left and you found out later you should have gone right. You didn't know, and now you won't do it again, but gosh, I went left and I made a mistake. Yeah, I didn't know. Okay, yeah, that's a mistake. But when you know better and you do it anyway, it's not a mistake. That's a choice. When somebody cheats, whether it's on a spouse or at golf, it's not a mistake. It's a choice. And when we make mistakes, we have come to expect grace because we give grace for mistakes. But when there is a choice made, unless there are consequences imposed, why not make that choice again? And so it is, but that is a culture that it takes a lot of energy to put in. It's why Creating Measurable Results has a 3-year curriculum. I mean, it's why, we deliver a message every 2 weeks to a company or organization for 3 years. I mean, and trust me, as much as I have spoken in my lifetime and in what we laughingly refer to as my career, if you could go in 1 or 2 times and dramatically affect an organization, I'd have done it. But we have figured out that it is a constant effort that must be applied to create or improve a culture or to maintain a culture at a high level. Culture is nothing in the world but thinking. It is how you think. It is how we think. It is the thinking that the team has, the thinking the employee group has together. Culture reflects your thinking. You know, if you're a head coach of a college football team, you got 100 players and probably 150 staff members. I mean, there's probably 150 staff. And so 250 people, is there any way that somebody can, Is there any way somebody can control the decisions that are being made down in the trenches? I mean, if you have a company with 1,000 people and you're the CEO or you're even a vice president, you know, do you understand how many little bitty decisions are being made that you never even know about? These are decisions in how they respond to coworkers, in how they respond to customers, decisions in how hard or how fast they work. There were decisions in so many aspects. These little bitty decisions, and if you could somehow take your team of 250 people, your company of 1,000 people, or take your family of 5 people and somehow increase the decision-making power by 10 or 15%. Do you understand what a difference that would make? If you could increase the thinking by that. Chris Larkin, how are you doing? Oh my gosh. Captain Chris. Well, I need to talk to you. Harmonica, Captain Chris was... Can I say this? Chris, you may have been the biggest badass I ever knew, or that I have ever known. When I was working with special operations, and I did for 8 years, but the first general that I ever worked for was thinking Mike. Now I can't think of his name. Mike Woolley, General Woolley. And when I first started working with them, General Woolley had an aide-de-camp who was, I don't know, he was very organized. Let's just put it that way. And after 2 or 3 months, the Gulf War started. And when I connected with General Woolley again, he had a different aide-de-camp. And this guy was wearing a red beret and pretty muscled up. Nice guy, but it was Chris Larkin. And I asked General Woolley, I said, hey, where's the other guy? And he said, well, when the military is on a peace footing, we have an aide-de-camp, people like me. He was the special operations commander. And he said, people like me have an aide-de-camp who is an organized, more of an administrator. But when we're on a war footing, we have a badass that is with us at all times. And Chris was the badass. But Chris, here I would look at you one way. You had that red beret on. You look like you're fixing to take somebody's heart out of their chest and take a bite. And then Chris had daughters. Chris and Stephanie had daughters that were the same age as our sons. And so we'd go to Chuck E. Cheese for a birthday party. I'd see Chris at Chuck E. Cheese. Oh, man. Chris, we got to get together. Dr. Barb, how are you doing? Happy New Year. Karen Jones. He never played sports, but was a nurse for 30 years, and everything we've said applies to healthcare. It's true. It's true. Robin Brackman, enjoy your comments. Thank you. Dina Kilpatrick, how are you doing? Yeah, not getting away with disrespect. It is a problem in the world. Marcy Taylor, a big mistake or a choice. That's a big difference. Yeah. So, Matt Wilson, hey buddy. Matt Wilson has seen a lot of, Matt works with colleges and with college athletes and pro athletes, and he has 2 kids who are college athletes, son in football and a daughter at Auburn playing softball. So He's seen a lot of that. Ron, Beth Webb, thank you. Christy Woods, my sister. Elizabeth Kobelarts Davis, watching, thank you. We got them from all over America today. I hadn't seen anybody outside the country popping in. And most everybody is in the studio today is from in the country, except for Minnesota. All right, you guys. You know, I mentioned the Appalachian State beating Michigan. You know, we just did a podcast with the CEO of Vortex Optics, which is the #1 sport optics company in the world. Binoculars and scopes and rangefinders and spotting scopes and this kind of thing. And he was a wide receiver on Appalachian State. He was not, he had already graduated by the time they played Michigan, but he was at the game in the stadium that day watching it. So that was our topic for today. Pete Holt says warm greetings from Michigan. There ain't nothing in Michigan that's warm this time of year. Bob Woodall, Happy New Year to you and Carla. Good to see you guys. Bob Woodall, we need some more things for Wisdom Harbor. Bob is one of our main contributors. Bob is a chef. He's a big guy, and he cooks big food. And so he cooks for us on Wisdom Harbor a lot of times. I was just the reason I was getting on him about, hey, we need more of your stuff. I walked out in here yesterday and I was watching Bob cook something out here. We keep these running even when you guys aren't here. But John Mason Smith, Happy New Year. John Mason Church is still doing good. John Mason Smith, they moved to Amelia Island, but John used to be one of the foundation guys at Worship on the Water, where we go to church at Floribama. And so if you guys are down, have you been to church at Floribama? You need to go to church at Floribama. Somebody told me it's like a church for people who don't go to church. And I thought, well, that would be a great way of inviting somebody. Hey, we have a church that is it's a church for people who don't go to church, and you look like you don't go to church. Actually, Worship on the Water is great. We have a good time there, and we tell them every Sunday, we're glad you're here. Whether you drove here or walked here or woke up here, we're glad you're here. So, Sandy Springer, starting your new year, reading the 7 Decisions. Good for you. All right, you guys. I'm not going to be here Thursday. I'm going to be in a northern state wearing 2 jackets. But I'll be back next week, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.